Joshua, your host for this episode, and we are here with Shannon, who is the founder of Operation Happy Nurse. How are you, Shannon?
I'm doing good. We're halfway through the week here, so I'm excited.
Yeah, I mean, it's Wednesday. It's Wednesday evening here by us, so we're pretty much into our Thursday already. Um, so yeah, I'm happy. I'm excited about this interview, and yeah, let's get into it. Operation Happy Nurse, can you sort of tell us more about your personal experience and struggles in nursing field that led you to start Operation Happy Nurse?
Yeah, I like to start off by saying that despite the struggles that I experienced, I do and did really love working as a nurse in the neonatal ICU. I think a lot of the times people think it's one or the other, that you love it but aren't affected by it, or you're affected by it and therefore you can't love it. And I don't think that that is true. But at the beginning of my career, I started in the neonatal ICU. I knew I wanted to do NICU since I was in high school. And I had heard that as you go through nursing school, that your specialty and what you want to do will change, but mine never did. Funny enough, throughout nursing school, I didn't get to do peds or NICU until senior year. So I sat there thinking I hated the profession at the time because I didn't like working with adults. And to those adult nurses out there, kudos to you. I just can't do it. I love the babies. I love working in the NICU. I think they're incredible and just some of the coolest patients. But I always knew that I was going to do NICU. The one thing I didn't feel that my school prepared me for, and really my nurse residency program prepared me for, was the significant pressure that you're under as a nurse and the feelings that you are going to feel when a patient passes away or when a patient starts going downhill. I felt like there wasn't a lot of resources on teaching us how to cope. There was one class on the death and dying process, but that was more of what the care looks like versus how to care for yourself afterwards. So I don't think that as a 22-year-old, I was prepared to bring a baby down to the morgue, right? And then
Mm-hmm.
all of a sudden I entered the profession and I was dealing with the death. I was dealing with death. I was dealing with the death of infants, and I'd never truly had to deal with death prior. I had lost a grandparent when I was pretty young, but other than that, I hadn't had to deal with much death. And then I was all of a sudden just expected to cope with this in a healthy manner without any guidance or any resources easily accessible to me. And when looking around to other nurses, everyone just seemed that they were doing fine and that they were doing all right. So therefore, I decided I was going to be fine and I was going to be all right. So I pushed down any sadness. I pushed down any upset and association with these deaths or with these patients going downhill. I don't really like the word downhill, but who were getting more sick. And I pushed down any upset from that and continued on. And as those around me, I would look like any other nurse who was handling it well. No one knew that I was struggling. But to find a sense of control in an otherwise uncontrollable environment, I started developing signs and symptoms of OCD. I needed to have, like I said, some semblance of control in situations where there was really nothing that I could do. Later in therapy, I found out that majority of my OCD tendencies had to do around safety. So I was trying to find safety in times that I didn't feel that I could provide safety to my patients, that everything I did didn't matter because they were still getting sicker, and no matter what I did to help them, there was nothing that we could do. And so
Mm-hmm.
in that, I tried to find a sense of safety elsewhere. So I developed signs and symptoms of OCD. My anxiety got pretty bad. I wasn't positively coping. I was just pushing everything down, pushing all the emotions down. I wasn't telling anyone about my sadness, my stress. I just kept going on. And it took someone close to me in my life telling me that they noticed a change, that for the past month I had been acting differently, where a month prior we had lost a patient who was with us for 6 months, who I was pretty close with, and we had lost this patient, and I struggled with that loss, but didn't tell anyone I was struggling with that loss. So my personality began to alter. I was becoming a bit more withdrawn, and this individual noticed this and told me that they could no longer be in my life anymore because I wasn't as kind and compassionate as I once was, that I was a bit more irritable than I was prior. And after voicing to them what had happened, this didn't make a difference. And at first, I was very upset with them that they weren't there for me. And then I realized that I wasn't giving myself anything to positively cope. I wasn't caring for myself at all, and that I needed to care for myself and not other people, that, like, I was in charge of my own care, and that it's
Mm,
great when you have people around you who support you, but I'm not gonna get better if I don't want to do it myself, if I'm not fighting for myself, if that makes sense. So I started researching a ton of different stress relievers, and I really started developing positive coping mechanisms, and in doing so, I things got a lot better. I was able to start speaking to other nurses about what I had just experienced, and in doing so, I realized that the journey that I felt so isolated in, it wasn't a unique one, and that it actually existed in a lot of other nurses, that it actually occurred in a lot of other nurses, and that this entire time I felt so alone, I wasn't alone at all. That is when I decided to start Operation Happy Nurse.
mm, mm. And just a side question, do you think it's a um, sort of negligence on academic institutions that they don't sort of prepare nurses emotionally and mentally to handle these moments?
I think that for the longest time, people didn't speak about this part of the profession. We all just struggled in silence. So I think until people started yelling, everyone just thought that they were alone in that. So I don't think they necessarily thought to add that to the curriculum, because we all thought that we were struggling alone when in fact we weren't, because no one was talking about it. Now that we're speaking about it, I think that organizations and schools desperately need resources for their student nurses in order to not only benefit them now, but also in the future of their careers. But at the time that I was in school, I just don't think that it was talked about, and therefore those who were in the administrations of these nursing schools didn't really think to provide it. But I'll have you know that the university that I went to, I now have 3 professors there on my board of advisors at Operation Happy Nurse. So the university that I went to, where I didn't feel like I was educated on this, they are actively pushing for it now. So I think that things are changing.
Yeah, that's amazing. I definitely think that there needs to be some sort of groundwork when it comes
Yeah,
to handling one's emotions and kind of going through, or just merely understanding that it's okay, that this is something that people need to deal with in this profession, but need the help, essentially.
yeah, yeah,
So,
100.
Shannon, Shannon, tell me, what was that specific moment when you thought like, Operation Happy Nurse? What spurred that specific day to that idea?
Yeah, this is actually super funny because Uh, when I was getting pretty burnt out at the beginning of my career, I wanted to kind of look for other options of how I could still help. I'm meant to be in a caring profession. I love nursing, but I was feeling very burnt out at one point. So I started actually volunteering for March of Dimes, because like I said, I love my NICU babies and I wanted to still help them. So I was wondering if maybe a career in March of Dimes might allow me to still help the babies without being bedside. And funny enough, I later decided that I loved volunteering for March of Dimes, but I thought travel nursing was the way that I should go. And I loved travel nursing. Like, I think it reinvigorated me. I think it honestly kept me in the profession a lot longer than I would have stayed. And I absolutely adored that experience. So when I decided I wasn't actually going to go for a job at March of Dimes, that I was going to travel nurse, one of my friends was talking with me and said, "Well, do you think you'll continue volunteering for March of Dimes when you travel nurse? Like, are you going to volunteer for the individual locations at each place you go?" And out of nowhere, I just said, actually, I really wish that I could volunteer for a nonprofit that focused on the mental health in nursing. And my friend sat there and was like, does that not exist? Is that not a thing? So we
Mm.
looked it up, and back in 2018, it wasn't a thing, and I couldn't find anything for me to be able to volunteer there. So I brought it up to my mom, and my mom is a lovely lady. She started her own business a while ago, and she's just so cool. And I told her this, and she had said to me, "Well, we obviously need to do something about this." So we did some market research, and we learned that, in fact, my journey again wasn't a unique one. And from there on, we just pushed to begin a nonprofit that could focus on mental health and nursing.
Wow, amazing. Yeah. And you said 2018 was when you started.
Yeah, so officially we launched our resources in December of 2020, but we began our business plan, our research, building some members of our board, trying to get our 501(c)(3) certification. We began that whole entire journey in 2018.
All right. And just touching on the resources that you started distributing in 2020, what kind of specific mental health resources does Operation Happy Nurse provide?
So we're very focused on preventative care measures and providing individuals with positive coping mechanisms while being surrounded by those who understand. One of the biggest struggles that I had was I didn't want to talk to anyone who wasn't in the nursing profession because I didn't truly believe that they could understand the stressors that we're under, the unique stressors that we're under. So I knew I wanted to build a community aspect where individuals could be surrounded by people who get them, get the struggles that they're going through, and where they can feel less isolated. But I also wanted to provide like a one-stop shop to preventative care measures. So we have things ranging from discussion boards, a book club. We have yoga, fitness, and meditation videos. We have dietitians on board who will answer any questions that our nurses have. And if you don't know where to start as a nurse, they write a blog as well to help you learn if you don't know where to begin. We have two chefs on board who release weekly recipes. We have monthly discounts, monthly playlists. We've got in-person events like our Fitness for the Caregivers event, as well as our concert, our Nurses Week concert, and other events that we're actually going to be launching next year. And then we've got a Nurse Insights blog, which is written by nurses to help share their voices and share their stories. We have a therapist blog, which is written by uh, social workers to educate us on what we might be going through and help guide us in the right direction for our mental healing journey. We have a podcast called the Self Care Unit Podcast that we co host with another nonprofit organization called Don't Clock Out. They're a peer support group organization for healthcare workers. And then we also have something called the Happy Nurse Program. So, or programs. So, what this looks like is it has four different subsections of it. It has, you can meet with a mental health professional, and this isn't a therapy session. This is just where if you don't know where to begin and you just need some guidance, these mental health professionals will guide you in the right direction, help you decide what kind of therapist you should be going to, how to utilize your insurance to find therapy, how to know what resources to look into, that sort of thing. They're kind of like they just help guide you on your healing journey.
Mm.
Are then we've got one-on-one goal support. So if you feel that you need someone to hold you accountable, but just a one-on-one individual where they can help you create and build goals for your preventative care measures, we have volunteers who will work one-on-one with you to build and create your goals. Then we have an accountability group where we release a new goal each week, and you can join this group and we can all do the accountability or the goal together. And then lastly, we are about to release a YouTube series where we dive into different topics in regards to mental wellness and mental health.
Wow, it's very impressive. How do you ensure that
So
these resources are accessible to nurses? Like what's the process?
So it is a completely free resource for nurses. All they have to do is go to operationhappynurse.org and click sign up. We ask them for where they are licensed and when their license expires, as well as their name so that we can look up the license and make sure everybody in the community is a nurse or is under the nursing umbrella. So we offer this resource to CNAs, LPNs, LVNs, NPs, RNs, anyone who's underneath that nursing umbrella. As for sharing the resource, we work with a lot of different organizations who do share this for their nurses, allow them to know that this is completely free for them to utilize. And then it's also word of mouth.
Mm, mm. And can you maybe share some success stories or feedback from nurses who have benefited from this program?
Yeah, what's really cool is that a lot of the nurses who join end up wanting to help as well, which has just been a really cool experience. So one individual, she's told me that Operation Happiness was the first time she had felt truly seen by an organization and truly understood by an organization. And that was a really cool thing for me to hear because, it's scary sharing my story, and it can be kind of intimidating how everyone knows, the intricacies of my mind in
Mm,
nursing. But then when I hear someone feel seen by that and feel seen by the organization and those in it, that just it makes it all worth it. And then we had another individual who actually had joined some of our Happy Nurse programs a while back and later wrote that she now felt that she had the tools to care for herself, and now she wanted to advocate for nurses. So that was also just so amazing that we were able to provide those tools to her, and now like these individuals are change makers as well.
mm. So let's quickly take it back. You mentioned that you started releasing these resources back in 2020, and obviously 2020 was the pandemic, and everybody had to go into lockdown, and obviously nurses were definitely part of the forefront of critical care in that time. How has the pandemic sort of affected mental health of nurses, and how does your initiative adapt to this support system in that challenging time?
Yeah, I think that there's a common misconception that COVID and the pandemic caused the mental health crisis that's happening in the nursing profession. And this already was there. We were all just struggling in silence. And so COVID just kind of worsened a issue that already existed. It just, I guess, catalyzed it in a way that now it was more rampant than it seemingly was, but I don't even think that's true. I think it's just more talked about, and that the stress of the pandemic just worsened issues that already existed. So when I was developing these resources, we had already developed it based on survey responses that we got back in 2018. So we had already built out this platform, but we so happened to build it out that it was a virtual platform so you could connect to nurses from all over. And in doing that, it also applied to when we were in like isolation or when we had to stay
Mm,
home and that sort of thing. So that we had already developed it that way, and now we've changed it where we do in-person events and things like that so we can have the community meet in person. But in all honesty, we probably would not have released the resource in December of 2020 had the pandemic not caused such severe crisis in the nursing profession, we expedited it in order to get these resources in hand for the nursing community. But like I said, uh, this was COVID didn't cause this problem, it just worsened it.
Yeah, yeah, I can imagine. I think it was just super well timed that, this initiative came out when it did and super helpful. Um, but tell me, you mentioned that Operation Happiness has dietitians on boards and nutrition plans and speaks a lot to about internal wellness as well as just mental wellness. So, what is the role physical fitness and nutrition play in improving mental health for nurses? And how does the initiative address these aspects specifically?
Yeah, so this was kind of complicated because nutrition and fitness, and I'm putting fitness in quotes because we've had members who say that fitness can actually be a triggering term for them, for those who have struggled with things like body dysmorphia or eating disorders. So,
Mm,
Operation Happy Nurse isn't necessarily focused on your physical outcomes, if that makes sense. We're focused on your mental
yeah,
outcomes.
yeah.
So, when we provide yoga and fitness videos, we provide them with a range of timing, a range of movement levels, and we focus it more on how can we help you decompress in this moment? What length of time do you need to decompress in this moment? Do you need a 10-minute cool down yoga or do you need a 45-minute active yoga? Like, how are we going to help you release these negative emotions? How are we going to help you cope through some of the difficulties that you may have seen? If you wanted to come home after a 13-hour shift, well, we have a very short 10-minute workout for you to do just to release these negative feelings. So for me, when I'm in a very dark, anxious state and I cycle or I lift or I do some quick bursts of cardio, I can literally feel the negativity leaving me. I can literally feel my brain fog clearing and where I can look at things more rationally than I could prior to starting. So we're focused on that effect. And if your body gets healthier physically along with that, then great, but that's not our goal with our movement. Our goal
Mm,
is to help you cope with what we see in the profession. And all of our dietitians on board are dietitians, so they don't believe in like a specific diet. They don't push a specific diet for your wellness. They focus on healing your relationship with food and showing you what kinds of food can do certain things for your body and how it can benefit your body, what foods can help with your mental health, can help with your gut health, can help with your energy. They're very focused on the effects that food have on your body and they educate on that. Now, if you are on a specific diet and you do have questions in regards to that diet, you can ask the dietitian about it and they will respond to you with guidance and resources. But our individual blog posts are focused on educating what foods do for your body and the effects they have on it. And then our chefs, we don't release just like only quote unquote low carb or keto or that sort of thing
mm,
diets. Our foods are, we release healthy foods, we release comfort foods, we release things that can heal the individual mentally. So we do, in doing those, you are also benefiting your physical health, but our focus on it is to really heal your relationship with health and wellness, and heal in the meantime the traumas that you may have experienced within the profession or within your personal life.
yeah, yeah. And tell me, what kind of advice would you give nurses who are currently struggling with work-related stress or mental health issues?
Yeah. I think the biggest advice that I can give is to seek out support from those around you, from those that you trust. I struggled in silence for a very long time. It was very isolating. It caused me to view myself poorly. It caused me to view the world poorly. It caused me to feel very alone and feel like no one really cared about me, which I knew was not true. I think that when you speak to other people and when you speak to those that you trust and when you join a community like Operation Happy Nurse, you can see that the feelings that you're feeling are not you're not alone in them, that other people are feeling them too, and they're there to speak with you about them, they're there to listen, they're there to understand you, and it's a lot more difficult to go through a healing journey, a mental healing journey, when you feel just completely isolated, but we're not isolated in our feelings, at least one other individual has felt them, and all it takes is us just speaking with them to know that.
Yeah. And tell me, just to end off, what is the big plans for Operation Happy Nurse, and what does your future look like with Operation Happy Nurse?
Yeah, so right now, currently, Operation Happy Nurse is a web-based community. So you have to go to like Safari or the internet or, Chrome or whatever to access it. Right now, we're building a mobile application that will make it easier to access and will make it more community-based. So you'll be able to post on there, you'll be able to connect with other nurses, etc. And it's going to be really, really cool. So in the next year that should be released, knock on wood, hopefully. That should be released and that'll be really, really cool. And then I would love to, right now we're in the US and Canada, and I would love to expand to other countries as well because this isn't just something that's occurring in the United States. This isn't just something that's occurring in Canada. This is occurring all over. And I would love to be able to help those as well.
Mm-mm. So, can you maybe tell us how our audience can get in contact with you?
Yeah. So you can head over to operationhappinurse.org and head to our contact us form. We will respond to those pretty quickly. If you want to volunteer, you can do that. You can connect with us on social media as well at Operation Happy Nurse. Our podcast is at Self Care Unit Pod. And then if you want to volunteer, we are always looking for volunteers. We always need extra hands on deck. So again, you can go to the contact us form on operationhappynurse.org. And if you're an organization and you would like to partner or you're an individual who would like to donate, we are always looking for that as well. And if you head to operationhappynurse.org, there's the donate page on there.
Amazing. Well, Shannon, thank you so much for joining us today. And it was great to hear about your initiatives, your plans, and what you've been able to do over the last couple of years just to kind of stimulate this conversation about mental health in the nursing profession.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. I'm happy we finally got to chat.
Yeah, it was absolutely amazing. Thank you so much.
Thank
Well,
you. And have a good rest of your evening.
you too. And thank you everybody for listening to the Voice of Nursing podcast. We'll catch you later with another episode. Bye.
Bye. Thank you.